Hey, everybody. Hello, Santa Fe. Happy Wednesday. Alan Weber here in the mayor's office with my mask on because we are now in the month, this month and starting in February, a lot of mask enforcement courtesy of the Santa Fe Police Department. The president has put a new priority on mask wearing everywhere. It's the way we bend the curve. So remember to wear your mask, use your hand sanitizers, wash your hands, practice social distancing, stay in your family bubble. We got to go from red to yellow to green. And talking about that, we have a very special guest star on today's program, the CEO of Christus St. Vincent, my very, very wonderful friend who I admire enormously for the work she does in our community, Lillian Montoya. Lillian, welcome to the WebberCast. You know why you're here, which is there's an awful lot of misinformation, disinformation, no information about how we're doing with vaccinations. It is, I always say, if there were a thought bubble over the city of Santa Fe, the word of the day is vaccinations. So we got to get vaccinations. Until then, we got to wear our masks and be safe. But before you talk about how Christus is doing with vaccinations and overcoming the hiccups from the federal government, which is where a lot of the hiccups are coming from, I do want to pass along a compliment because I get emails that are intended for you. So I opened up
that's where they're going.
yeah, they come to me, and then I choose which ones to send to you. I opened up my email box last night, I don't know, 8:30, and there was an email that you need to know about and your team needs to know about, because I know what you've done at Christus is all teamwork all the time, and culture change all the time. This email from a gentleman said, my wife and I got our vaccinations thanks to Christus, and the word he used in the email was, the experience was perfect. Perfect. People were fast, efficient, pleasant. So you should pass the word along that while there's a lot of confusion and concern about vaccinations, there's also a lot of appreciation. And kudos to you and your team for doing such a good job. So that's the compliment. But now I would like to just ask you to give folks an overview about the situation with vaccinations in Santa Fe from your vantage point. You're a hub. You get briefed on how the doses are distributed, how many you're able to do, whether the protocols are being followed, how to register so you're on the list. Why don't I just shut up and let you talk a little bit about the vaccination picture from Christus and Christus's CEO.
You bet, I will. Thank you for actually inviting me to come and chat with you. I was hoping you were going to give me the answers so I knew a little bit more about what's going on around vaccines. But also I'd be happy to come back every week because it's this situation's changing every day. Let me begin by saying that we're maybe a month and a half into conducting vaccines in this country, a month and a half, 6 weeks time. And what we know is that the supply chain, there aren't enough vaccines in the supply chain reaching the states, which means even less certainty about what's going to reach our hospital and others. What we're still learning is that the distribution channels are changing, and it varies state to state. In some states, it's through a state department of health only to their locations. In some states, it's directly to health systems only. And in other states, it's a hybrid, it's a mix. We're in a mix, we're in a hybrid. We're in a state where vaccines are distributed through hospitals, through private entities like Walgreens or an Albertsons pharmacy, et cetera, and then also distributed through Department of Health clinics in partnership with some counties and cities. So we very much have a hybrid distribution model. And again, it is changing every week. So, and sometimes daily. We have completed just about 8,000 vaccinations as Christus St. Vincent. And we started with the 1A category of healthcare providers including those that are not Christus St. Vincent affiliated. We reached out to our community organizations that are engaged in delivering healthcare, caring for patients, and have vaccinated them, EMS, even our own workforce, et cetera. So that's largely completed. We still have some 1As that trickle in. And then now we really are focused on 1Bs, which is a very, very large category of persons. And if you look at the State Department of Health website, it's really rather extensive. I was just reading it a minute ago, but it directs our organization and others to follow it in a sequence. And at the top of that sequence in 1B are persons that are 75 plus. So that is where we are focusing our vaccinations. We are looking into our medical record for patients of Christus St. Vincent because we can see in there how old people are. And we have about just over 4,000 people that fall in that age category. And so we have been doing a random selection to get to all of those individuals and outbound call them, meaning that we are calling them because we know their phone number, we know their name, we know their birth date, and we are calling them to schedule them for a clinic. And that is the best way that we have to manage a process that may not feel fair and equitable. The other thing that's really, Mayor, you're gonna ask me a question?
No, I think you're
okay.
I was gonna say, you mentioned the protocol for 1A, 1B, and so on. If folks want to look that up themselves so they can see what the Department of Health guidelines are that I think originated with the Center for Disease Control, and then Department of Health has adopted that. That's on the Department of Health website. So if you're curious about the protocol and you want to know what Lillian's talking about when it comes to the list of how the waterfall will cascade,
Right.
you can find that on the
like
Department. Oh, there it is. Wow.
See, that's what it looks like. And it's on their website, as you said. And when it talks about 1B, it's this really extensive category, which is causing some concern and confusion in the community because folks look at 1B and they think, well, I'm on that list. But it's very clear that we have to administer vaccines in the following sequence, and it begins with persons 75 years or older. And that's how we're choosing to focus. Now, before I go into more detail about that process, the other thing that's really important to know is that the distribution of the vaccines begins with Department of Health. And so as an organization, we receive our distribution for Pfizer. So we are only vaccinating Pfizer. We've made many requests for Moderna, we've been declined. They are, from what I understand, it's being directed to smaller pharmacies, the Moderna. So we're only Pfizer right now. And we really do not know how many vaccines we will receive until Monday, each Monday.
Every Monday you get a notice.
Correct. Or no, we get a delivery.
A delivery.
Yeah. And we'll put in a request each week, early in the week for the following week. But what we're finding and other health systems in the state are finding is that we are not always getting the amount we're requesting because there just isn't sufficient supply. And so we don't know how much we're actually going to receive until it's in our possession.
Wow.
Okay, so until it's in our possession. So as an organization, we already know who we're going to call and schedule for a vaccine. And we may actually call them because we've already got it all ready to go. We got this clinic set up. We got the staff scheduled to be here to administer the vaccine. But we don't pull the string until the vaccine's in our possession. Then we know how many we actually have available and how we can go ahead and confirm those appointments. So we have completed just around 8,000 vaccinations. About 5,000 of them were first vaccines, a first shot. The balance were second doses. So we're having to look at what do we have in our possession and how many do we have to set aside for second doses, second vaccine, and then we have the balance available for first. It's math. It's just a simple mathematical equation. Now, let me give context. Mayor, how many people live in Santa Fe County?
100 and
25,000 maybe,
30,000.
about right. We get 1,000 doses a week.
Wow.
Santa Fe County population's 125,000. We serve a 5-county population of 300,000 people. St. Vincent Hospital is only receiving enough for 1,000 doses a week, and we need to split it between first and seconds. Okay, that's the mathematical challenge. And this is why the community, me, others are frustrated that we can't move faster. Well, because we don't have enough vaccines in the queue. We just don't.
Supply's not keeping up with demand. Now, here's a little thought experiment. The president has now invoked the Defense Production Act. He's trying to ramp up the production not only of the vaccines, but of the syringes and the other devices that are important. So I know there's no way to predict, but you said we're 6 weeks into this. 6 weeks from now, if the Defense Production Act goes to work, the kinks get worked out of the fire hose, and we start getting a better flow and more predictability of vaccines and syringes. Any way to look 6 weeks down the road and say we're going to be much better off? There'll be a lot more predictability than right now. Is that what your team is anticipating, or is that just wishful thinking?
We are cautiously optimistic. We are hopeful that we'll receive more vaccine. We're planning with that assumption. So my team's like, if we receive 4,000 doses per week, my team's like, we could do it, Lillian. We got this. They're like ready to go. They already have in mind how we do a giant community clinic and make it happen. And how do we do the observation? I mean, they're already in plan B of how to make a complete community vaccination process work. So we're ready to pull a string. I have people that want to volunteer to work on those Saturdays to make it happen. But until we have the vaccine, it's hard to know how many clinics, how many people, how many hours. And then yet to be determined is how do you make decisions about who receives that vaccine first if we go that big scale. You know, the other thing, Mayor, that's really important for people to know about distribution channels. I talked about how we have this hybrid model, sort of best way to explain it. But there are many queues, many channels, many lines in which to receive a vaccine. That's probably, there's so many ways to say it, but people absolutely should indicate interest by reserving on the Department of Health's website. But that is one queue, it is one channel. And when you do that, you will find out through that process where they're going to direct you to get your vaccine. We wouldn't be one of the places they direct people to because we are receiving our own vaccine and vaccinating the patients that are in our medical record. So there are many queues and many lines. But to that point, as an example, I understand that the University of New Mexico already had scheduled people to come and get vaccinated at the pit. Well, they were declined on a distribution, I think to the tune of about 1,600 doses. And so they're having to rethink rescheduling because they too are not going to receive sufficient vaccine. You know, I have an opportunity every week to have a call with the CEOs of the hospital, the smaller hospitals that surround us, all those that are in the north, to talk about how vaccines are going, not only vaccines, but how is it going treating your COVID population, how's it going on testing. But vaccines are the hot topic. And they too, in some cases, they're coordinating with Department of Health to do vaccines. In some cases, they've only received enough vaccine just for their workforce. And then the Department of Health is handling community. Some might be getting a little bit further in the 1B category because they were fortunate enough to get additional doses that they didn't anticipate. But they're all feeling, these surrounding communities, Los Alamos, Taos, Raton, Catron County, they're all feeling that community pressure as well for vaccinating, but they're limited on the supply. So we're all feeling that pain.
Yeah, I think we are all standing ready to do anything we can to help. The city has offered to the governor and the Department of Health the use of the convention center. If you want to have a mass vaccination site, we've offered to work with the South Side malls or the South Side Library to open up vaccination sites. We've offered our fire personnel who can do testing, or our EMT folks who are possible vaccinators. So we're all, I think, ready to do what we can. The big problem is when President Biden opened up the cupboard, it was bare. And it's not funny, but it is what they learned, I think, from watching TV, listening to Dr. Fauci and others. Things were worse than they thought when it came to supply. So demand is skyrocketing, supply is constrained, logistics have not been set up adequately. We're all ready to work with our hospitals and as you say, the pharmacies, the supermarkets. We just need more vaccines. Now, one thing you mentioned to me when you and I talked on the phone a couple nights ago, you said people need to understand that getting angry doesn't help. There's a lot of frustration, but your folks working night and day at the hospital, they're not the problem. They are as frustrated as our folks who want the vaccinations. They're trying to get them the vaccinations. Put in a good word for your team, Lillian, because you guys work incredibly long hours.
So there are a couple thoughts on that. The first is that there is this pent up frustration about, because people have a deep desire to get the vaccine, right? But calling my hospital operators and yelling at them and blaming them for not being able to get a vaccine, or to reach me to complain about not getting a vaccine, is not going to get the vaccine. It's a supply issue. And calling administration and calling the individual clinics and yelling at our staff that are just focusing on caring for the patient right in front of them, it's really not helpful, and it hurts their feelings, because I have a team of people here that want to say yes, but they don't have the resources to say yes, and so yelling at them it just demoralizes them a bit, because they feel like they failed our community, and it's not on them. It's not on them. It's a supply issue. The other item that I'd like people to think about is we are in a scarcity environment when it comes to vaccine supply. We've been talking about this during this whole call. And in a scarcity environment, people become frustrated and sometimes unkind, right? But they also get a little judgy. And that's the other area where I ask people to exercise real caution and come at situations with positive intention, because you are going to see people posting on social media and telling their friends and family that they were vaccinated, and they may or may not fall into 1B category based on your perception. So you don't know how old people are that may have gotten the vaccine. You may not know their profession that entitled them to a 1A vaccination. You may not know that they are a caregiver within the same household caring for a 75 plus aged person. And so I just really wish people be really kind and a little less judgy about why some people received a vaccine and others haven't. I think we're all doing our very best work to ensure we are honoring the requirements that the Department of Health has put out in terms of prioritization. And we just need to accept and honor that intention's coming from a place, and we're doing our best work. Because that's what's hurtful, is because we start seeing these social media posts and people start feeling bad that they've got the vaccine even though they were eligible for it. And we don't want that. It's just that we're in a scarcity environment right now.
I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to let you get back to helping people stay healthy or recover their health, because I know that's your primary focus in life. I understand that we're getting that there's some meetings that were happening and are starting to happen again. There's kind of a core group that sits down once a week from DOH, from the hospitals, from our care providers, to do a kind of a huddle around what's going on and how to plan. I think that would, again, we're trying to give people some reassurance that not only is help on the way, but our team has its act together. So a little bit of a look behind the curtain about the work that goes on that people don't know about in order to be organized, prepared, and collaborative in our community to get the vaccinations that people are so eager to have. The medicine's got to get in your arm or it doesn't help.
So there are so many conversations happening on a regular basis so that we can stay on the same page. We have a twice weekly call with Christus Health so we can get a national perspective with what's happening on the vaccine front from that angle. We have twice weekly calls with the Medical Advisory Task Force that includes the cabinet secretaries with the state to hear from them as to what they're experiencing in making those requests for vaccine and learning their desires for how we distribute it. Internally, we have a twice daily vaccine conversation with 20 members of my leadership team so that we know what we're going to do, with whom we're going to do it, and when we are going to do it. And it's every day. This is our vaccine focus. And then we have a clinician-based team that meets 3 times a week to make sure that we are honoring all of our commitments with regard to the vaccine, and that we're understanding what do these the changes in the virus mean for the vaccine, and are we vaccinating the right people? Do we need to make some exceptions given known criteria? And then, of course, Mayor, we participate in your weekly phone call with community leaders to make sure we're on the same page. I feel like we've put communication on steroids to make sure we all know what we need to be doing and how we can be helpful to each other. I think there's certainly opportunity to make sure the community at large knows, but we are being so transparent in what we know. I think we're just all equally frustrated that there's still much to learn. We're only in week 6.
Yeah, and I think we're on a good curve to get vaccines into people's arms. It's medicine. We got to get the medicine where it can work and keep people safe. But in the meantime, we're making up for lost time, and there's a race against time. We don't want these new strains to spread. We want people to stay safe. And so until you get vaccinated, wear your mask, go back to basics. Those still apply, right? Mask wearing, hand washing, physical distancing, stay in your bubble. And then when your call comes, show up for your vaccination, because there's a limited, once you crack that vial of medicine open, you've got to get it into somebody's arm within 6 hours. So
that's really important for people to know, because once we take the Pfizer vaccine out of what the equivalent of a deep freeze and we apply a reagent, we have to use it within, or when we take it out of deep freeze, we have to use it within 5 days. Once the reagent's in there, it's 6 hours. So we cannot waste a dose. And Mayor, this is so important. If and when you're ready to have this conversation again in this format, I'd be happy to come back and share more about what we know at that point, because it's an ever moving conversation.
I'll have you back because, as you said, it's rapidly changing. The feds are stepping up. That's where it all starts. The supply chain is theirs. The vaccines they're buying, they're in charge of that. And I think they're going to be moving as rapidly as possible. But then it's all local, right? And it comes down to, are we getting people in Santa Fe vaccinated? So I'll get you back on our little WebberCast. You are so generous with your time and information. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your help and your leadership in our community. You are a superstar. So thank you for.
So are you. I appreciate the partnership. It's made a huge difference. I mean, just being able to see all sides of the challenge that we're facing in this community and working on it together has made a big difference for us.
We'll keep pushing out information and advice, and as it changes, we'll update it, and then keep track of the numbers. I think they're going to grow and show people's confidence and their sense of security. So thanks, Lillian. See you again soon. Appreciate you. All righty.
Appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. So we will get Lillian back because, as you can see, she is amazing, and she knows an awful lot about what's going on with vaccinations, with testing, with all of the COVID-related healthcare issues. I got a few other things I want to talk to you about because there's a lot going on. I don't even know where to start. Santa Fe has been named the second best small city in North America for filmmakers to live and work. While you're thinking about our future economy, when we get back into business, as we reopen as a city, as a community, the Garson Studios on the campus at Midtown are a jewel. And while Midtown has been discussed in the past, we are in the process of terminating our exclusive agreement with the master developer. Nonetheless, there are huge opportunities, and this award, this recognition, second best small city in North America for filmmakers to live and work. You want to know who is number one? New Orleans. I don't even think of New Orleans as a small city, so be aware that Santa Fe continues to be a place we can all be incredibly proud to live and work and talk about with others, because most other people want to be here. Back to COVID briefly. If you are interested in doing a COVID test at home, you don't have to go anywhere. You can get the test sent to you. Go to learn.vaulthealth.com/NM. Learn.vaulthealth.com/NM. Free at home testing. There's a protocol you have to follow. You have to do a Zoom call while you put your saliva into a tube, and then you send it off. A couple of days later, they tell you positive or negative. Absolutely free of charge to you, and a way of getting clarity in your own mind, getting certainty about whether you are testing positive or negative. We want to drive our positivity rate down. The more tests we take where people test negative, the sooner we get to go from being a red county to a yellow county to a green county, and then we can reopen as we get vaccinations and testing done. Let's see, we have some other exciting news for you about local business. Now, this is a passion of mine. We have got to help our mom and pop shops in Santa Fe. Help is on the way. We've talked with Lillian about vaccinations and healthcare and safety and bending the curve of COVID. Meanwhile, we've got to help our Santa Fe-based businesses make it through this pandemic. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, but we don't want them closing up shop while we wait to get to the end of the tunnel. So our tourism department, Randy Randall and team, have set up a platform called Santa Fe Marketplace. You can find it on the web, santafemarketplace.com, where local stores have a platform for selling over the web. If you love buying over the web, you can do it and help our local merchants rather than buying from Amazon or other people. Buy local, shop local, keep your money right here in Santa Fe. It's got a multiplier effect. When we buy local, those folks hire local, then the paycheck stays local, and everybody benefits. So santafemarketplace.com, check it out. It's a great place to shop. You probably aren't in the market for property, but Santa Fe city government is selling property. We've got some assets on our books that are not performing. They're not helping development happen. They're not helping housing happen. They're not returning revenue to the city's treasury. So we are now putting some assets up for sale. They're advertised at sfpublicassets.org. And we're looking at selling some buildings we own, some land we own. Check it out. It's an opportunity for your city government to get things off our books that are simply taking up space. They're not productive. They're not adding to our economy. They're not adding to the private sector. They're not creating jobs. They're just sitting there. So sfpublicassets.org. Check it out. It's kind of an interesting way that our community development team, our asset development team, is taking care of your business by getting things into productive use. They can turn into housing, they can turn into office space, they can turn into other productive uses, more jobs, more business. As the economy rebounds, it'll be good for everybody. As you all know, the legislature is in session. It is a little bit different this year. It's all Zoom and distancing because of COVID. There are a number of bills in front of them that your city government is working hard to support. As the legislative session moves on, you'll learn more about what we're lobbying for, working for to get passed. This week, I sent in 2 letters about energy policy. One on community choice for energy and electric generation, electric utility, another on community solar. My view is that particularly as we look at global warming and climate change, we look at the reimagination of our economy, we look at historic injustices when it comes to who can afford to put solar on their roof or who can afford to have lower cost energy. We need to pivot toward a better, fairer, and greener energy future. So these two measures are in committee. I took the opportunity to send in some testimony saying we really are building a different energy future for New Mexico. Piece by piece, brick by brick, we're seeing this new structure emerge, and it is a very optimistic new approach to energy. It is distributed, it is less expensive, it is more entrepreneurial, it leaves room for innovation and creativity. It's local, it's personal energy. It is really the wave of the future. What we had in the past made sense in the past. It was centralized, it was big, it was dependable. Now with our effort to green the economy and green our energy supply, we need to think about distributed community energy, and these bills will take us in that direction. I hope the legislature will move forward with both of them. We continue to work on making sure people in Santa Fe don't go hungry. Another big shout out for our friends at the Food Depot. Thursday, January 28th, 7 to 9 a.m. Food Depot, food distribution, 122 Siler Road. If you need food, that's the place to get food. If you don't need food and you want to contribute so that nobody in Santa Fe goes hungry, send some money, send a check, a donation to the Food Depot. They do amazing work, absolutely spectacular community effort to keep people in Santa Fe fed. Let's see, other interesting work. Tonic for the Times, more good work in Santa Fe. Gratitude for New Mexico COVID caregivers and a fundraiser for the at-risk community where they live and work. Saturday, January 30th, starts at 5 p.m. through Sunday the 31st at 5 p.m. It is a entertainment program. It's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We want to show our gratitude for our COVID caregivers and provide a little fundraising support. You can go to info@tonicforthetimes.com and find out about the programs that will be available, stories from our healthcare workers, musical performances, celebrity shout outs. The governor is given a big shout out. She's eager to participate and support and recognize our local heroes and support those who need some help. You can also join the Quarantine Book Club. It is the Santa Fe Public Library, some of the most creative people in Santa Fe, keeping our spirits up, keeping us engaged and entertained and educated. Santa Fe Book Club, the Quarantine Book Club. You read Trevor Noah's book, Born a Crime, and discuss it. Friday, February 19th at 4 p.m. Library at santafenm.gov. Some of you know Trevor Noah. He is the host of a serious news comedy show, South African born, and very articulate and very keen observer. This is his memoir about being born in South Africa, the legacy, the horrible experience of dealing with apartheid and racism. Born Crime. So check that out. Let's see, there is a governing body meeting tonight at 4 p.m. and then 6. A special meeting tomorrow night at 5 where we'll be talking about Midtown and the mutual agreement between the master developer and the city that right now COVID-19 has changed dramatically all of the efforts to have a master plan uh, brought forward by that developer for the Midtown site. We still have a lot of good projects there. I mentioned the Garson Studios, but we need to pivot away from the agreement we had with a master developer to look at a portfolio, a suite of opportunities. There are 7 working groups right now underway looking at ways to move forward. Everything from more community engagement and opportunities for you and everyone in our community to have their voices heard about what ought to happen at Midtown, to looking at infrastructure, financing, circulation, sustainable development. All of that is underway. And sometime toward the end of February, the governing body will make some votes about how to move forward with Midtown. Still a great opportunity for our future as a community for housing and jobs, education, sustainability, open space, public space, arts and culture on that campus. One last shout out. Boy, there's so much to talk about in Santa Fe. The 3rd Saturday of each month from 11 to 3, drop off your community art closet donations. Thursdays 2 to 4, it's at Midtown, at Vital Spaces. The opening salvo of this, the community art closet, 200 folks came to donate or receive art supplies. You can pick up your art supplies for free the 3rd Saturday of the month. So that's 2/20, 3/20, 4/17, and so on. A great effort brought to us by Vital Spaces to make free art available to the people of Santa Fe. More community engagement, community help, really the heart and soul of Santa Fe. So it's been a long visit this time because we wanted to make sure you heard from Lillian Montoya, who is a huge and gifted leader in our community. There's also stuff to talk about beyond COVID, as always. Be aware that starting February 1, the Santa Fe Police Department will be undertaking a month-long mask enforcement blitz to make sure that some of the sites where we've heard from you that people are not abiding by the mask wearing requirement, there will be citations issued. The whole point is to stay safe, to get us to the point where those vaccinations are all in our arms. We are feeling safe and secure. We can get back to life with more normalcy, with more assurance, with more confidence, more safety, everybody healthy. So until I see you next time, please stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of the community. Together, we will all take care of each other and take care of Santa Fe. Next time we get together, we'll talk some more about vaccinations, more data, more information. We'll keep pushing out the information so you know how the vaccination process is moving forward. Thanks for watching. Stay well. I'll see you next time.